He's been in several films and TV shows from Flashpoint, The Interview, Fringe, Continuum, and the breakthrough Canadian play that became a hit TV show, Kim's Convenience. But this Surrey, BC actor also plays an interesting role outside of the TV studio. Thanks for joining us, James.
Hi.
So you are also a pastor
Yes.
/ actor. Do you sometimes feel like Clark Kent? You take off the glasses and you become something totally different?
No.
How do you balance these two worlds?
You know, I never thought I would be doing both roles, but somehow it really fits for me. It's really interesting how it works out. But I always thought I was just going to be a pastor. I thought I was going to be the next Billy Graham.
Yeah.
And then my first week in Bible college, the dean of men said, "Some of you guys think you're going to be the next Billy Graham. Let me just tell you right now, you're not." And I was like, "Yeah, that's me right there. Yeah." And I quickly found out doing ministry that I didn't quite fit the mold of what I think people expected of a pastor. And so I always felt this tension of like not fitting into what I'm supposed to be doing and feeling like I'm coming up short all the time. But I just realized that I actually was uniquely made by God, and that the role that people have kind of expected pastors to fill is not that realistic, honestly. And so I went through a really big journey to come to a place where my paradigm shifted, and I came to a place where I was open to doing something outside of pastoring. And at first I thought, is this wrong? Is this okay? But I gave it a try, and I feel like God has confirmed it. And I've really enjoyed having like one foot in the world, in the marketplace, and one foot in the church, just kind of doing both. It's been so fun.
You've alluded to that struggle. There was a time where you wanted to be an actor, but really struggled with, God, how does this all work? And you tell a story of just dropping off your kids at school and just this frustration about life and God and purpose.
Yeah.
Share that story.
Well, I kind of went through a real dry spell as a pastor. I was a youth pastor, and I was working in Anchorage, Alaska at the time, and I had become kind of jaded. I had a lot of bad experiences in the church, just seeing churches split, never being really involved in any of that, but they just can't seem to get along. And after a while, you start to think, man, I'm just spending so many hours and years inside this church, but it feels like we're just doing the same thing and nothing ever comes of it. It just felt like that, and I started to lose a lot of hope in humanity, and I got to a place where I needed an out. And so I think God really allowed me to explore acting, and but in my heart, I just never wanted to pastor or do anything. I just wanted to be a normal guy.
Yeah.
And I started getting into acting, but I stopped trusting in the Lord, and I just tried to make ends meet. But I learned zero skills on how to make money. I studied in seminary, Bible college.
Yeah.
I knew nothing about making money. And so I'm doing these like menial jobs, just trying to keep my days open to do acting while trying to feed the family. And so it was not going well, and always just like struggling financially. And then this great opportunity came up when I started out in acting. I was on hold for some commercial, and it was like a $15,000 paying job, and I'm like, this is exactly what God is giving me, and then and I didn't get it, and so I was devastated. Usually I'm like, okay, whatever, we'll just get to the next one, but that particular disappointment just got to me, and it kind of rocked me. I guess it was the straw that broke the camel's back in a way, and I pulled over after dropping off my kids at school, and I just started having a showdown with God. I said, God, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. It seems like every time I'm about to get something good, it always falls through. And it's just a lot of my mistrust issues started coming out. And then I talked it out, and suddenly I just felt like God really assured me that if you just trust me, I'll take care of you. If you just go down the path that you feel like you're called to, and just trust me, I'll take care of it. And so I said, I don't know what that looks like. I've been telling people to trust you, but I honestly, I don't even think I really truly know how to trust you. And so I just declared it. I said, I'm going to start trusting you from now on. And whatever that looks like, I'm just going to do it. And from that day on, I have just been trusting the Lord every day. I don't worry ever again. I've been faced with a lot of new challenges, but every time it comes up, it just feels like my strength, my faith gets stronger and stronger, and I totally trust the Lord.
And that meant going back into the church and becoming a pastor.
Yeah.
And so dealing with imperfect people, because we're perfect, but all the other people in church are imperfect.
Yeah.
So like, how do you reconcile with that and say, okay, God, if that means me ministering, if that means me pastoring as well, then I'm going to do that.
Yeah. I think God just redeemed a lot of things that I had experienced. The church community that I'm in, they saw me when I first started attending. I wasn't on staff, and I was falling asleep in the back, and nobody ever said, like, isn't that guy like someone that used to be a youth pastor? What's up with him? Like, nobody judged me. They knew I was going through a hard time, and all they did was continue to just welcome me into the community and encourage me and say, man, Jimmy, you work so hard. You're such a hard worker. You're such a good father. You really are a good husband. You look out for your family. And all the time I'm thinking, I feel like I'm just such a failure, and so they encouraged me, and I learned a lot about community through this church. Yeah. I don't think I ever really truly knew true community because I was always kind of a hired hand in the church and never feeling like I was really truly part of that family. And so it was sort of new to me, and that redeemed so many things about my experiences in ministry.
So James, where did your passion for acting come from?
I think it goes way back to when I was in grade 2. I was a recent immigrant. I just barely spoke English, and somehow the teacher cast me as Santa Claus in the class play, in the school play, and then I remember I would just deliver the lines, and everyone was laughing so much, and I found this like interesting energy coming from the audience and me giving it, and then it was just like I kind of felt something there, and then I was Rumpelstiltskin in the next one, and I'm like really getting into it, but then I stopped, because I was just always self-conscious, and I moved a few times, and I experienced a lot of racism, and so I just wanted to get into a shell. So when I was in high school, there's no way I'm doing any of that stuff.
What was the first role that you pursued?
Well, I took like acting 101
okay.
in University of Anchorage, Alaska, and the professor was like, "Hey, why don't you audition for the university play?" And I was like, "You don't understand. I've never done a play since like grade 2, And so he's like, "It's okay, just give it a try." And it was like, I said, "What is this play?" And he's like, "It's called The Misanthrope by Molière." And I was like, "Isn't that guy like Shakespeare?" I had no clue.
Yeah.
And I go, "Do they speak even normal English?" And he's like, "Well, it's in verse." And I'm like, "I don't know what verse is," but I came and read the script, and I had no idea what I'm reading. And my character is speaking like long paragraphs on every page.
Wow.
And I said, I don't think I can do this. And he goes, just audition. And so I auditioned, and he gave me the part. And so that's how it kind of started. I don't think I did a very good job, but it was my very first play, and I was thrilled to do it.
What's one of your favorite roles that you've played?
Well, I would say for sure the top one is playing Appa in Kim's Convenience to Play. That has been, because usually I'm getting roles where it's not, like unless you're, one of the principals or one of the leads in a sitcom or a regular TV show, you don't get to explore your character that much. You're a day player. You come in, you say your lines, and you're done. Yeah. So you don't really feel like you're growing too much through that, except for like getting experience on set. But doing a meaty role like Appa in Kim's Convenience, that's fantastic. And it's opened so many doors.
And so what resonates with the role of Appa? Why do you cherish and love that role so much?
Oh man, I love that role because he is like a first generation immigrant.
Yeah.
And he kind of reminds me of Archie Bunker a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he has this really grumpy side to him, but he's very set in his ways.
Yeah.
But what's beautiful about this character is that when he kind of realizes I'm losing my family and what I've been doing isn't working, he actually is open to change. Yeah. And so that's what makes this play so received well by people. I think everyone relates to it, whether they're an immigrant or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember the very first time I saw it in Toronto at the Fringe Festival.
Yeah.
I heard people leaving the theater saying, I'm going to call my dad. So it has that effect on people where they realize, man, like family is very important and I need to make things right with my family members. Who would have ever thought that taking a Korean convenience store owner and writing a play about it would work? Yeah. And it's so fascinating. And yeah, I am so blown away that actually became something so huge, and it's really opening people's eyes. Like everyone is trying to write something about an ethnic group now, and I think it's definitely a trailblazing kind of show.
Yeah. So how do you choose a role? As a Christian, as a pastor, are you careful about what roles do you take?
Yes.
What does that look like?
Yeah. What I do is I actually talk to my church leaders. And I say, here, take a look at the script. And if it's something that's questionable for me, I'll say, hey, I'm not feeling really comfortable, but I just wanted to run this by you. And so that's what I've done. And I haven't had to do that too many times, but when it's something that's, a little real questionable, I will do that. And then they'll sit down with me and say, we support you either way, but this is what we're sensing. And I go, you know what? I'm not going to do it then.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
it's important having accountability, isn't it?
Yeah. And to make decisions as a community, I think it's so safe. Yeah.
What have you learned about your relationship with God through the struggles, through the ups and downs, and now being in this place where God is just blessing your gifts?
Oh, yeah. I would say I learned that you really can't put God in a box.
Yeah.
And he kind of brought to my memory a scene from a movie. I remember watching Chariots of Fire. And I remember when Eric Liddell was talking to his sister, and he said she just couldn't understand why he had to run when she wanted him to be a missionary with him. And she's just giving him such a hard time. And finally, she said, why do you run? And he said, when I run, I feel God's pleasure. And I think that's exactly how I feel when I act. Yeah. I've really found a lot of freedom in my relationship with God through all this.
Thanks, James.